But when you get freaking Speed Force literally cuddling up in a freaking thing like this, like, oh, it feels like warmth and hugs, and now she's freaking cooking things and stuff. Look, what has this show become? Right, let me preface this video by saying something very serious to every viewer out there. When I say serious, it's not that serious, but I still believe that this message is important. Look, if you enjoy this and you're just appreciative of that you've got something to watch now, you love the cast, and you're still really enjoying the show, more power to you. I couldn't mean that anymore, and I'm practically envious of you because I wish I was in that position. And I also respect it. Enjoy the show as much as you can, and I just wish that I could. And this may not be the best note to start this video off on. It's just, I know when I get a bit more critical, there's two types of people. Let me put it this way. There's some people who standards are a certain point, and no matter what, their show, of which I just detailed in a couple different ways, they love it for various reasons. They will love it regardless, despite some flaws that might fly right over their heads. But for me, where my standards are a certain degree, and I don't think they are too high, and I don't mean this in a me kind of way, you listen to these videos for my thoughts, my opinions, my critical opinions. I'm not here for this. I'm just not. Like this latest Flash episode, again, it wasn't that great. It wasn't. But I know that insults people for some reason when you hear other people's opinions. Seriously, if you're enjoying it, I really am happy for you. But maybe it's just what we've got going on right now, and maybe I'm going to enjoy it, as I've stated quite a few times, maybe the Godspeed stuff more when Impulse comes in potentially. But what we got like right this episode, this is what I mean, guys. Like, The Flash, I feel like, is truly, to put it very, very bluntly, and this hasn't been the first time it's been said, you know how things have a best before date. It doesn't mean it's expired on the food. It just means best before. Like, you should have this ideally before this date. You can have it afterwards, but it might not be as great. That is The Flash right now. And honestly, when you take into account all the seasons that we've had, I don't think a more accurate assessment could be made, in my opinion. But if you're still enjoying the show after its best before date, then fair enough. And I know this intro already is definitely gonna rub some people up the wrong way, but I can't. And there's a whole plethora of reasons as to why I'm not so on board with this story right now, with the Speed Force freaking cooking in the kitchen and talking about, I don't know. What's happened to the Flash? Episode 7, titled Growing Pains. And yes, I literally feel the growing pains that this show is going through, because it's turning into something that just isn't as good as what it used to be. And arguably The Flash has kind of been tippy-toey from like season 4 with that massive tone change, season 5 with the what the heck villain was that, season 6 I liked Eric Wallace's new approach with the graphic novels, and don't get me wrong, I like Eric Wallace and many things he's done ever since he stepped into the show during season 6. It just feels like right now, for example, this episode was a perfect kind of example. Yes, there's some, I do want to point out, look, you guys know I really like this show in general, right? I do. It's just the avenues and little facets we're getting in episodes now are just getting too eccentric and too wacky, too cheesy. Instead of embracing what it kind of used to have, a fine blend of the serious vibes. And, you know, look, I know there might be some comments saying, well, we can't have Reverse Flash every season, like season 1, or Zoom every season. But do you remember the stakes and how much more dramatic things were back then? And just that kind of to it. But there was the meta, like, goofy stuff as well, which, as I said, I don't mind a fine blend. But when you literally have episodes like this where you have frickin' the Speed Force cooking breakfast in the kitchen, and there's lines towards the end of the episode where Barry is just like he's talking to an ex-girlfriend saying, look, I know how much things have changed between us. You're not the same as the Speed Force I'm used to interacting with, and I can't expect you to be the way you were. It's not fair to you, either of us. You're something else now, something new, and I'd like to get to know that person better. It's just, this is really deviating off the beaten path. It really is, and unfortunately it's pushing fans like me aside. And the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm not the only one here. I really know I'm not. The fascinating thing, though, when you make videos like this and you get comments, there are all types of different people. There are much less critical people. There's people who really enjoy the entertainment aspect of this, regardless of what critical points are made. And then, like, I guess some people, as I've already kind of mentioned in this video, and those types of people seem to really still just enjoy whatever they're kind of given. I'm not saying they're mindlessly kind of consuming this show, but they're somehow not remotely affected by the way the story is deviating kind of for the worse, in my opinion. Like, either way, this video is going to get a lot of dislikes because I think people are getting a bit tired of me saying similar things about the Flash, whilst to be fair, as much as many people say that, I get more people kind of agreeing with me, understanding where I'm coming from. Clearly, the Flash isn't the same show it used to be anymore. I just feel like I'm getting to the point where if it continues like this, I don't want to review this show anymore, do breakdowns. However, the reason why I haven't pulled that plug just yet is because I know this show can be better, and we do have some interesting stuff that I'm dying to talk about as of when we get to those episodes like Godspeed and everything like that coming later on this season. It's just right now when we have Killer Frost walking into a freaking bar and you have a shirtless scene where there's that music going on like that. Look, it's just, it's going above and beyond to really not take itself so seriously in those ways, and that has been done before on the show, but I feel like the consistency of moments like this have raised tenfold, and I don't know what to do anymore. I'm really struggling. Another reason as to why I struggle is because, yes, I really like this cast. I really like the premise of the show. We have Grant Gustin, who is my favorite live-action Flash to date, being the Flash 7 years in, arguably a veteran Flash now, and I love that. I love the idea of that. I love the idea of what we could still be getting into, Godspeed stuff, but then it's full of all of these little whimsical, eccentric storylines and beats where it's just like, Jesus, what is happening? I know this is a rant. I might call this breakdown / rant and review, because this is turning into a rant now. This isn't even a conventional review. This is me blabbering my Speed Force freaking thoughts out as of where we're at right now, and I am on my last leg. So I know that was a long intro into this, but let's talk about this. Speed Force creating all kinds of breakfast is the beginning of this episode. She can cook, combining ingredients with heat to provide molecular change. You guys know my thoughts on this. I understand, as I prefaced in this video, there's different types of people. You may very much so be on board with this storyline, but sorry, for me, I'm going to recycle my thoughts from last week's review. When you have the more ambiguous Speed Force taking human form in Season 3, I was completely fine with that, and you see her in the Speed Force whenever Barry went into it. I'm fine with all of that, but when you get freaking Speed Force literally cuddling up in a freaking thing like this, like, oh, it feels like warmth and hugs, and now she's freaking cooking things and stuff. Look, what has this show become? That's what I mean. What's going on? We have Nora coming to the crime scenes of another Frost-powered person. We'll get into that in a second. That is a bad idea, as Barry pointed out. Sure, in defense, you could say, yeah, but this is X amount of years later. Is anyone really going to recognize Nora? But still a risk. But the Killer Frost storyline, so, like, technically, there's nothing too much wrong with this, you know, because this is a relevant storyline. We have this lady Kramer coming in. She wants to obviously target Killer Frost for the crimes that she's committed in the past, and this involves several different aspects: kidnapping, assault, and things that you would serve time for. And people might praise this because it's kind of relevant and irrelevant in various TV shows where people do things and they never suffer the consequences for them. And by the end of this episode, it's like they made a bit too much of a transparent point of it with the monologue that Killer Frost had. But yeah, like, they're finally making somebody pay, but it's kind of reminiscent of what they were trying to do in Arrow with exposing Oliver Queen, or was it Team Arrow in general? And the thing is, all while you could argue moments like that are relevant, it's just, guess what? I don't care for this. Are you really, like, okay, look, fair enough if you are. I completely respect that if that's the case, but subjectively to me, this little Kramer lady coming in and all of this stuff going after Killer Frost, I don't care about it. It's not, unfortunately, something I care about, and this is why I do want to try and get my wires crossed correctly with you guys, because as much as I'm flaking on this, I still want to watch the, get on to the Godspeed stuff. This story just might not be for me. Personally, I think it's a really weird direction, as I said, for the Speed Force, and various other directions they're taking with various shows and the characters, and just general decision making, I just personally wouldn't sign off on. And I feel like a lot of the audience of the glory days of The Flash, you know, first season to season 3-ish or 2-ish or whatever, they would probably say, yeah, that's not the best route for that, or like, you know, if they had a certain scene in modern episodes presented to them years ago back then, they'd be like, no, we wouldn't do that, we'd probably do this. So it just feels like constantly they're giving us stuff that old fans of the show who really used to be in this aren't resonating with anymore. And I know that for a fact because there's many comments, there's many people feeling just like me, where the show is almost taken on a whole new identity, and even the way they even approach scenes and subplots and various character things, it's really I know this is I just got a bad feeling about the feedback to this review, but I just hope you guys, you know, if any rapport I've built up with you on the channel, you know that I come from a good place in this show. Maybe that's going to be hard to see for some of you, because trust me, I get it, being really diehard about a show and somebody talking about it like this, but hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from. I felt like they borderline had to like force Allegra in this episode. I felt like she had absolutely no assistance or relevance at any point. That's a big thing that I think people are starting to realize as well. We've got these characters like Camilla and Cisco, and does it feel like to anyone else that Cisco's negotiated a new thing in the background with the showrunner saying, look, I'll stay on this show, but you have to give me several episodes away, like more than several episodes to F off in the seat. That's the only way I'm going to stay on this show, because I feel like every now and again, oh, Cisco's gone out to Atlantis, oh, Cisco's done this, like he's in the show a lot, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he's always away with Camilla doing something half the time these days. But yeah, as I said with Allegra, I just felt like, I don't know, that there wasn't too much use to her, and then by the end of the episode, she was like, oh yeah, let them try or something. Oh, really? You're going to just go fight the government now? Okay, go on in, Allegra. Good luck with that. See what? But yeah, that whole bar scene, and I was thinking, okay, the bartender, I knew he was going to be the villain of the week, the new quote-unquote Captain Cold, whatever you want to call it, and then there was a 100k bounty on Killer Frost. Look, I think it's this is the kind of CW formulaic approach that The Flash has now really adopted heavily, which I'm just not there for. So, you know, I'm not trying to even be too harsh to this, but you know the way they just did that whole scene, the shirtless bit, you know, it's like the daddy meets the metal music kind of thing came on again, kind of cheese reminiscent of that scene, that is. And it's just like, there's a lot of this these days, and I just felt like it actually 100% wasn't like that in seasons 1, 2, and 3. Say what you will about 3, but I still prefer it for so many different reasons over modern day storylines. Killer Frost obviously has the hots for this guy, and another meta of the week who was just not really a meta actually, and it was just like, okay, so, you know, this whole episode was very so. I know they were giving a lot of, to be fair, character exploration into Killer Frost's avenue and the repercussions for her past crimes, but I don't know, I think maybe it's just the delivery, the tone, the cheesiness, the eccentricness, which The Flash has now adopted. We also just had silly lines from, I think Caitlyn said this, like, you're innocent and so am I, except for all the crimes she committed, Caitlyn. Which is why I'm glad they doubled back on that at the end with Killer Frost literally giving herself up. Overall though, fast-tracking a bunch of things, but it's all very samey things. We find out the guy's a cryogeneticist, and he's basically figured out that Caitlyn was Killer Frost at the same time, because the only reason being he's an observant guy. Imagine what Central City would be like if they had a lot more observant people, and how many things would be really flawed with Team Flash if that was the case. Yet again, this fight, when they were like exchanging blows or whatever you want to call it, there was moments where they almost wanted to kiss each other with the way they looked at each other. I'm sorry, like that's the level of not taking yourself so seriously, I think, where I'm just cut off. Like, they're clearly at this point, like, Killer Frost isn't so for the hots for this guy, but they're fighting, and then like she's ending up like this, and it's like, oh, you're still so handsome. Like, no! No! You know what? That's the episode. At the end, as I said, we have the Speed Force Nora showing up in the apartment. They're talking about how much things have changed between them. As I said, even though it's weird because Nora is Barry's mum, she looks like Nora, but she's not Nora, she's the Speed Force. It's still, these lines and this exchange was spoken as if two people who have grown. who may be different and things are different between them now, but they're still willing to give the relationship another go because they want to get to know that new version of themselves more. This is, to be honest, I'm very aware how much of an incoherent kind of bitching sesh this sounds like, but with this video at the end of the day, there's going to be people who really kind of understand where I'm coming from and don't. And that's fair enough. I'm okay with that, I suppose. I think I'm going to piss some people off. That's fair enough. If you don't want to watch my Flash breakdowns anymore, that's fair enough. And I know this wasn't so much of a breakdown, but to be fair, when it comes to breaking down this episode, it's not like there was any massive larger forces stuff. There was no after title post-creditsy kind of scene, which would have given us maybe more shadiness to whatever the Speed Force is really doing. Maybe there's some of us have theories about. Other than that, we had a Captain Cold Mark II, if you know what I mean. Nothing really came out of that. And the major developments we had is that Caitlyn is now behind bars for now. And in the promo for next week's episode, it looks like she's going to be tried in court. I have to admit, am I looking forward to that storyline? No, not really. To be really honest with you, Killer Frost is, you know, she's alright, but like, it's not like, we're not like it's season 2 or 3 anymore where Killer Frost was very much so a new thing. It's like one of the comments, I can't remember, somebody tweeted at me earlier, it's like they're doing a Killer Frost thing 3 or 4 years too late. I kind of agree with that. I don't want to make videos like this that kind of sound like I'm just, you know, going ham at it as if I really don't like this show. That's not the case. It's because I love this show so much that I'm struggling with watching this. And before anyone says it, I think some people said in the previous videos, it's because you're getting older. So, no, if I watch season 1 or 2 of The Flash right now, there's so many reasons I could give to you in a bullet point list as to why I will enjoy that so much more than the storylines we're getting now. It's very much so the creative decisions they make, the not so much taking themselves seriously anymore, the lack of interesting, like really interesting story we're getting. The Force's storyline is their attempt at that, so I respect that. Like, that's meant to be my, you know, engrossed kind of storyline of season 1 and 2, right? The main storyline with the Forces. Right now, I am, you know, there's still Force to Stage Force, Psych, Freza, and all of that. 7 episodes in now to a shorter season 7, and I don't really care, if I'm being honest with you about that. You know, I'm still going to give it a chance, but I can't imagine these forces are really going to compel me much more. The Speed Force is very self-explanatory, like I did with that freaking cover I brought over my head. I think that just says it all, for crying out loud. And then the little plots we got here and there. Either way though, the very ending of the episode is now that Barry and the Speed Force are kind of on the same page, and she's not going to hover over him so much like a mum. Now they can take on all 3 forces together. You know what, I wouldn't be surprised if Speed Force Nora genuinely gets her own CW Speedster suit. I would not be surprised if they do a Speed Force suit. That's where we're heading, people. That's where we're heading. Either way, though, I have no idea how this video is going to perform. Let me know what you think of The Flash Season 7. Do me one favor and compare it to your experience in the infancy of The Flash's seasons. And just give me your honest opinion. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I know this has been a ramble, rant, and review, but hey, I do these very rarely when it comes to, like, ranting. I don't rant a lot. I always usually see the best in shows, but I think the perfect analogy I gave was that this show is now past its sell-by date, past its best before date, not sell-by date actually, because this show still has some, you know, you can still eat it, but is it going to be its best? Nah, that's before. That's before the date it's stamped on the product. So that's how I'm feeling right now. I hope this show can change my mind in the graphic novel 4 or like 2 of this season with this Godspeed stuff and the Impulse stuff, maybe. But that's it, guys. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Maybe dislike it if you disliked it. Whatever, right? Fair enough. And I guess I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.